Yeah, I'll react to that, sure. I learned a trick, guys. When I deactivate you can't see my OBS. But you know how I suck with all the lighting? Like, whenever it's really light in the room, my face turns really dark. Or just all around me. And whenever it's dark in the room, oddly enough, the camera will adjust to make it brighter. And I'm still figuring all this out somehow. And I was messing around with the green screen yesterday, and I thought it was really cool, but then I decided to tweak it a little bit. And then that ended up hours of nothing. Let's go. My name is Connor. If you are new, I need to start off with a shorter video to get me started. Although I am... Hi, yeah. Nice to meet you, sir or madam. Original link to the video, top of the description below. Discord, also down there. I'd love to have you. Preemptive like side quest. Have I seen them? I'm subscribed. Let's go.
The Roman Empire. Historians have debated for centuries when exactly the Roman Empire ended and who its final emperor was. And as you'll soon see, the list isn't as short as you'd imagine. Theodosius I is our earliest candidate. He was the last emperor to rule the Roman Empire in its entirety before its permanent split into eastern and western halves. The problem here is that, to the citizens of the empire at the time, this would have seemed like business as usual. The empire had been split between multiple emperors quite a few times in the preceding centuries.
Is that true? It didn't feel any different?
So in 395, nothing would have seemed out of the ordinary. It is only with the benefit of hindsight that we know that no future emperor would ever succeed in reuniting the empire. The empire must be reunited.
Well, just because it's hindsight doesn't mean he's not the...
Now, as we all know, the western part of the empire collapsed not long after this split. The last Western Roman emperor who held any real power in Italy was deposed in 476 by the Germans. And that is where the story is usually said to end.
Okay.
However, the eastern half of the empire carried along just fine after the West fell, and sure, the people there spoke predominantly Greek rather than Latin, but they still considered themselves...
I'm sorry, the Byzantine Empire just doesn't do it for me.
And sure, the people there spoke predominantly Greek rather than Latin, but they still considered themselves Romans and called their polity the Roman Empire. The emperors in the East continued speaking Latin as their native tongue for another century, and for a brief time, they even reclaimed Rome from the barbarians.
Guys, I don't know what it is, all right? My brain just acts the way that my brain works. And my brain just doesn't like the, it doesn't get excited. Like, I'm extremely excited about learning about, northern modern-day Italian region between the fall of the post-Justinian, just between the end of the Roman Empire and honestly the start of World War I. I want to learn, but especially around the Renaissance time, say 900. I know 900 is before the Renaissance. I'm really interested in learning about Italy from 900 AD to 1600 AD. Like, you know, like that area, I really want to learn. Like, you know, Milan.
Nevertheless, the Greekness of the Eastern Empire put off historians enough for them to give it a different name. The Byzantine Empire, a term that's popular today, but which its contemporary inhabitants never used. From their point of view, they lived in the Roman Empire, which had continuously existed through an unbroken chain of emperors stretching all the way back to Augustus. The Eastern Empire would survive various calamities over the next 1,000 years, including the rise of Islam, only, in a great twist of irony, to be brutally dismembered by the Crusaders, who decided that fighting the Muslims wouldn't be as profitable as sacking Constantinople. You can argue that the Roman emperor at the time, Alexius V, was the last real Roman emperor. The empire virtually ceased to exist for close to 60 years, with only 3 fractured polities remaining under Greek control during this time. One of them did manage to reclaim Constantinople in 1261, and historians tend to consider this a restoration of the Eastern Roman Empire, even though it never fully recovered the lands of the other 2. Overall, it was all downhill from the Fourth Crusade onwards. The Turks would continue eating up the empire, and in 1453 they finally succeeded in capturing Constantinople. The reigning emperor, Constantine XI, was slain defending the city, and, conveniently, he had no children. So he's the one historians generally consider to be the last Roman emperor.
Sad.
He did, however, have a brother, Thomas, who continued ruling territory in Greece
Palaiologos
for another 7 years, until the Ottomans got around to conquering it. He and his family fled to Rome, and for the rest of his life, which amounted to only 5 years, sadly, Thomas tried to convince the Pope to organize a crusade to restore the Eastern Empire. Quite the irony, I know. He even married his daughter to the despot of Serbia, hoping to recruit him for the upcoming crusade. But then the Ottomans conquered Serbia, and the whole idea fell apart. When he died in 1460, the despot of Serbia, hoping to recruit him for the upcoming crusade. But then the Ottomans conquered Serbia, and the whole idea fell apart. When he died in 1465, his claim of being Roman emperor went to his eldest son, Andreas, who continued trying to organize a campaign against the Ottomans. By 1475, however, Andreas had run out of money, and so he resorted to selling his title to the highest bidder.
This is, I think, why my brain chooses not to just be, I'm taking a... It seems like they're just constantly like, hey, guys, we want to take it back. Like, hey, it's like Rome is not a thing. It was a thing like 1,000 years ago at this point. Stop. What's that? Making fetch. Stop trying to make Rome a thing. It's dead. It's gone. And that's why it just... The way I love learning about history is a unique one. And I think some areas of history are more boring than others. And some are more exciting. And I think it's just like, move on, man.
Had run out of money, and so he resorted to selling his title to the highest bidder.
I'm not saying him, of course he had...
Indeed, he shopped it around to anyone who would listen, including but not limited to the King of Naples, the Duke of Milan, the fashionista he was, the Duke of Burgundy, marvelous color.
See, these are the people I want to learn about.
The King of France, and of course the King of England. Unfortunately, no one took Andreas up on his offer, and in the end, he died childless and penniless. In his will, he granted his title of Roman Emperor to the monarchs of Spain, who were complete. He granted his title of Roman Emperor to the monarchs of Spain.
So, Castile, Leon. This one right here, Spain has I think that the red and yellow of the Spanish red and yellow are beautiful colors, and they go together very well. Just Spanish symbols and colors and flags, I give A+. It looks so nice.
Who were completely unaware of this and never bothered to make any use of this generous donation.
Oh, sorry.
In his will, he granted his title of Roman Emperor to the monarchs of Spain, who were completely unaware of this and never bothered to make any use of this generous donation.
It's like, hey, you're the Roman Emperor. Thanks. No thanks. That was like 1,000 years ago.
Perhaps the most amusing part of this story is that Andreas's younger brother, who mind you had no titles to sell, lived out a much more successful life. He went back to Constantinople, offered to fight for the Sultan, and ended up with an estate, a pension, and 2 wives, if you don't mind.
Not bad.
One can only imagine Augustus rolling in his crypt. In any case, since we here at SideQuest are not fond of dying miserable and broke on the streets of Rome like Andreas, I humbly ask you to consider supporting us on Patreon. While I can't guarantee that we'll launch the reconquest of Constantinople anytime soon, I can promise you that we'll continue exploring the wonderful side quests of world history. In the meantime, you can, of course, also like and share this video with your friends and loved ones,
really
and any
cool.
potential claimants to the imperial title will handle them quietly and discreetly.
Really cool video. So, it seems to me the last emperor of Rome was Theodosius I, because he was the last emperor of Rome. This is Rome. This is Rome, okay? This is not Rome, okay? This isn't Rome. This is Rome. Who was the last emperor of this?
Empire in its entirety before its permanent split into eastern and western halves.
Come on.
The problem here is that as our
there he is. Cool video. I'm getting ready to, guys. More awake. See you soon. Bye, guys. Hope you're all doing well. Chin up.